All right, perfect. We're started. Okay, so what do you guys want to start with?
I guess everyone's thoughts on the book.
Well, it's kind of funny because I was reading it and I got to page like 4 or 5, and I'm sitting here thinking, I've seen this before. Like, where do I know this from? And I remember I'd seen the movie.
Uh,
And so I'm like reading this going, oh, I really loved that movie. And I did really love the movie, but I loved the book even more. It was amazing. Like, I couldn't put it down. I was reading in the car by iPhone light.
Yeah, it was a really good book. I'm not a reader, so I had to get the audiobook, and I put it on while doing some assignments. I actually stopped doing my assignments because I got really into it towards the end.
Yeah.
yeah. I thought it was a really enjoyable book.
Angela, you can hear us, right?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
What did you think of
my
the book,
thoughts on
Angela?
The book was, at first I was a little confused, and then it got pretty interesting. Towards the end, I figured out that it's just basically placed in the future. I think they're talking about the future, and the giver is just remembering past events.
Yeah.
Like when they talk about grass and they don't know what grass is, the giver knows what grass is. He knows what snow is.
Yeah.
So he's able to remember all those things or remember other people's memories.
Well, and I think the point of that was so that they would remember why they went to sameness. Like, they wouldn't forget the mistakes that people made in the past, so they could go to the giver or the receiver of memory and say, what do we do about this? What was the problem with this issue in the past, and how can we avoid it today?
Mm-hmm. It was basically set up in like a utopia based, like a little perfect world, like their version of a perfect world. And it kind of just reminded me of Hunger Games, like the whole setup of it, and kind of like I kind of creeped out by it. And that's how I felt like with Hunger Games too, like with all like the roles and like the whole visual thing. And so, but yeah, I agree. It was interesting to kind of put together that it was based on the future and how they just wanted everything to be perfect. They have that role for that guy. So when there are things that happen, it
kind of, yeah. It's,
Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, there she is.
That scared the crap out of me. I was like, no way, we're just starting again.
It's okay. We would have started the recording over.
Okay.
I think what I thought about after finishing the book was, I think what's important for kids to learn from this, or whatever grade level reads this, is that, like, you're not all the same. Like, you're never gonna all be the same. It's not natural. You know what I mean? There's that poem, and I forget how it goes, but it was the poem about how the teacher was teaching them how to draw a flower, and she was saying, no, you have to do it this way, but the kid wanted to do it another way. And it's like, you have to let kids be who they're gonna be, because they're gonna have to have their own. They're gonna have their own, like, have to make their own choices eventually. And if you tell them that everybody's the same, they're not gonna know what to do when they're on their own.
Yeah, I think that was a really big point, especially since they bring up how the community was trying to achieve this sameness, and they talk about sameness a lot, even how like everyone's the same skin color and everything, and kids need to realize like differences are good, and we don't all need to be the same.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing that bothered me the most, was that, like, I can't imagine everything in black and white. Like, nothing to me is like that. That's just not how things are.
Yeah.
So when they say, like, oh, we're all like, you don't see color. I'm like, how do you not see color? How can you not tell the difference between green and lime green? Like, there's a reason there's differences, and I think that was one of the points. Like, the themes of the book was to show that differences are okay, and you're still gonna be okay. Like, society is not gonna die, and they're not gonna crumble because you know you have brown hair and she has red hair.
Yeah. Yeah. I also really liked how they kind of brought up the point about wisdom versus ignorance.
Uh-huh.
How you kind of really gotta, you can't just live in ignorance, because you won't even know you're doing something wrong. You know, like they don't know anything's wrong with releasing people, and yet
Right?
they just do it. And I think that's a great point to bring up.
Let's be honest. Killing people,
Yeah, just doing what you're told can, end badly.
And I think that's the part that bothered me the most about the book was like, especially with the babies. They're like, what do you mean you're
Right.
releasing them? Is this like Moses? Like, what are you doing? There's no water involved here. Like, you're straight killing a baby.
Yeah.
That part also bothered me about the book when it said releasing the babies. That really got to me.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm
like, what is up with this? Releasing babies.
Well, that's the thing, that they thought it was just so normal. So,
Yeah.
like, you kind of think, like, with, like, our surroundings, like, the things that we see normal can be so wrong to others. So,
Yeah.
I think, like, it was important that they kind of put, like, something like that in the book, I think, because then it makes you kind of think at, like, our normal lifestyles and what is normal to us, and if we kind of, if someone from the outside sees what, like, things that we do, and they're gonna think like that's wrong too. So that's kind of like when he realized, like, he came to the realization of it.
Yeah.
And I think that they mentioned that in the book when the little girl was talking to her dad about the other community that came over to visit her school.
Uh-huh.
And she said that the little boy wanted to push her out of the line for the slide. And her dad told her that their rules may be normal to them, and their rules are different from their own. So what she sees as wrong, they don't see as wrong.
Yeah. I thought a lot about the way their like family unit was set up and how everybody was paired together based on like how they would match. And I can't imagine like it reminds me of an arranged marriage. Like I can't imagine having somebody else pick my husband for me. Like I've got mine sitting right in front of me and like I'm realizing my own mistakes as I go through them. You know, like I love him to death, but like we balance each other out because there are flaws. And I feel like that was what they were missing in their relationship. You know, there was no marriage, they were just together.
Yeah, they were, and that's one thing too. Reading the part where he had what's it called, the stirring, where he found
I know.
that little girl. Yeah, I was thinking, like, I was just like, that kind of sucks. Like they just kind of have any like emotion or anything, and having no emotion,
right?
Empty, and yeah.
That came up again when he said, "Do you love me?" And they were like, "Oh my gosh, your language." And I'm like, "What do you mean your language? Like, do you love your son?"
It's like taboo, like for him to say that. It's like, oh, kick it, like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that's really interesting because they were so focused on like removing all the bad stuff and like pain that you in turn remove a lot of the good, because you can't have one without the other.
Right.
But then again, it also goes to like emotions for people causes a lot of pain. Like when you try to like venture out, like for, I guess in this situation be love, or if you try to venture out for taking a risk or something, like it's all those emotions that cause people pain. So eliminating that, like nobody ever felt pain. So it's kind of weird to like think like on that different perspective of it. But it was the book really, like, I'm telling you, like I had to stop doing what I was doing because I got really hooked. And then the music got louder, like on the audio tape, and I was like, oh shit, like it was getting really intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I tried to put myself in it, like like they do different things at different ages. Like at age 9 they get their bike, at age 12 suddenly they're adults and they have jobs, and age doesn't matter. I wish age didn't matter. Like shoot, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that part was crazy that at 12 they technically could they didn't count age anymore.
Right?
When you think about like 12 and you see a 12-year-old, you're like, that's not an adult. Like now, like after reading it, you're like, man, like it'd be considered an adult after that.
Crazy.
Yeah, I think their 12 is our 18.
Right? And sometimes 18 isn't old enough.
18, I was like, I was not an adult.
Exactly. I was so not ready at 18.
It's too young. It's too immature.
Yeah.
But in this world, in this society, they weren't. Like from day one, they were taught, like they were basically brainwashed. Like there was nothing that they could have done about it. They were basically adults because that's what they were taught to be.
And they looked forward to their
assignments.
Like, and when they saw in like those ceremonies, like it was such a huge deal when they each got their individual roles. So when they were younger, they just kind of saw like all that, and so like the hype of it was interesting. That at 12, it was like such a big deal.
Yeah, and I think the saddest part was like his daughter Rosemary, how she asked to be released because she couldn't take it, and all I can think is, how is it that we live in a world like that, and we take that because we know what it's like, and she basically killed herself, like she committed suicide. Like that's what they're telling us, and it's so sad to think about because people today do that. They commit suicide because it's just too hard.
Yeah, I really liked that. Although it seems kind of like a crazy world, it's still so relatable. Even with releasing people, and you think like, how could they possibly do that? But you look at like Nazi Germany, and you're like, how could people possibly treat the Jews like that? How could they kill people? But that's what they were told to do, and they did it. And it's just so relatable to our world, even.
Or even when it comes to like secluding people like from certain groups. Like, I mean, we're not killing them off, but like we're mentally putting a wall there so that they can't be in our same groups.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all kind of weird how it makes this circle. Like, you're reading it going, oh my gosh, that's so weird. How can you do that? But if you really think about it, like, think about releasing a baby. Like, now I know everybody doesn't agree, but that's basically what abortion is. Like, people do it all the time. And so we look at it going, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. And yeah, it's crazy, but people do it all the time. We look at it in this book as a shot in the head, but it's not any different.
That's what I'm saying. Like like when you bring someone from the outside in, like to see the things that like do happen. Like we were the outsiders going into that one. We're like, whoa, like that's like way out of line. But then you bring up a good point. It's abortion.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool about this book. How they make it so you're like that and you have that reaction, like, I can't believe they could live in a world that does this. And then it's like, this is our world when you think about it.
Yeah. And they are all equal. And isn't that kind of what people fight for? They're like, everybody's equality. And like, now they have it. And do you want to live in a world like that? Because I don't.
No. It's so boring. Everyone's just like you. And
yeah.
It makes me wonder, like, what would I be assigned? Who would be in my family unit? Like,
the world needs chaos in order for it to function, because then no one would have their different like ideas, or I mean, that's like, if you think about it, it's kind of like politics. Like everyone's got to cause chaos just so like other people can have their differences and then finally meet.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think I would love for my nephew to read this. I know he won't. But I think it's so great because it's like it teaches kids that like society is the way it is for good reason. And like if we had this, you wouldn't be you. You would be number 19,
Yeah.
And like
you wouldn't know what was right from wrong if you really lived in a society like this, because just like him, like he didn't realize it until he was in the presence of the giver who kind of laid it all out for him with like emotions and feelings and making him think for himself.
But you can see how like that would depress him and like isolate him from society. Like, I know these things and I can't be near you because I know them and I can't tell you.
Yeah.
And he felt that. He was like, I just want to tell everybody and I can't. And he loved this girl and he loved his family and they couldn't even do it back for him.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty intense though, if you really dig really deep into it. That, and the fact that this is a children's book, like, it's pretty dark to be a children's book.
Yeah.
I found it to be really dark, and I mean, I wanted my daughter to read it, and then I'm like, no, but it's dark, and it might be a little scary for her.
Yeah.
I got like a creepy vibe reading it, and that's myself reading like, tempting to read The Hunger Games, because I really only got to like page like 2. So, like the Hunger Games thing, like that's still kind of creepy to think that. I mean,
yeah. I remember in 7th grade we actually had to read this book as a class reading. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I did not read this in 7th grade.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, this is the first I've heard of this book.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, so Kimber, thank you for...
No problem.
I'm forever grateful. I honestly didn't know it was a book until it was a movie, which I think is very sad because I'm a reader.
Yeah. Would you use this in a classroom? Or what age level do you think this would be good?
I would think even maybe younger than 7th grade, like maybe 5th or 6th grade. Like, there's so many, like...
To middle school, really.
Yeah.
Middle school is where really you try to find, like, you attempt to try to find who you are, and I think 6th grade would be a good time. I think it should be an individual read because really people get different perspectives out of this book. It's not just like one answer to it all, and so I think it would be better as an individual thing instead of a classroom because then we're not. I mean, the whole lesson is to be an individual. So when you have
middle school too.
Yeah. I have a friend who said that her teacher read it to them in class, and the part about the bathtub where Jonas had his dream, the teacher told them that she wasn't supposed to read them that part actually in the book, but she read it to them anyways. I don't know what age they were at, but like the school didn't want her to read the part about Jonas wanting Fiona to get into the tub and stuff.
It would be censored if it was in the classroom, because then
yeah.
In 6th grade.
They don't say suicide, but it depends how you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. So, like, if we were to read this to 6th grade classroom and that came up, I mean, would we say that she committed suicide or just?
Yeah.
So.
I think it's cool because it hits a lot of hard topics that I feel like should be discussed instead of being taboo.
Yeah, very true.
I think it's a really great preparation tool, and I think that's the way I've been wanting to explain it. Like, you say, like, middle schools is where they're figuring out who they are, so why not present them with this in, an earlier age and say, like, look at what you're faced with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, figure out where you fit in and realize that this is not realistic. Because let's be honest, it's not. The world will never be black and white. We will never not have grass. Like, there's never going to be a moment where 12 is an adult. Like, we're never going to reach that. So we need, like, I feel like preparing children early is really great. Like, I don't know. I think this man is an absolute genius. Like,
yeah, and actually the end really got me too. Like, it hit me, like, emotionally. Like, when he was with his little brother Gabe. Yeah. I think that was a good lesson too, just because you're putting somebody else before yourself, and that's a pretty important one, especially in middle school, because then I think like back in middle school, like it was very like about like I guess like popularity and all that stuff, and you want to be the cool version of you or whatever, and so you kind of forget about the more important things and focusing on the ones around you instead of just yourself. So I think that would be another good one too to be teaching him.
Yeah. It was like they wanted him. They thought when he became 12 and you find your job and stuff, like you become responsible and you like grow up. But really, by defying all the rules and learning to take care of Gabe and figuring out what was really going on, he grew up and he found out who he really was and what everything really was. I think that's important too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important. I think it basically helped him to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it did. It's so true about just with personal experiences, you do grow like that, and getting out of your comfort zone is the only way to grow.
Yeah, there's just so many good, like I feel like teaching points in this book.
Yeah.
It's the toughest moments that make you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yes.
I don't know if you guys had it in your copy, but in the beginning of the book, like before the book actually started, there was an introduction from the author, and he was talking about how like the book like changed people's lives. Like they would email him and say like, I named my son Gabriel because of this book or whatever. And I think that it's so cool that these people are treating this book like something so private, like this changed my life, like, and it's so true. It's like you look at the world differently now. I look at kids so different, and my 10-year-old nephew, who in 2 years apparently is going to be an adult, like I look at him so differently now and go, oh my god, you're a child. Like you, everything makes sense now, you know. So
Yeah, I just looking at the first page of it, where it says for all the children to whom we entrust the future. Like it really, I think that's super deep first off, because it.
Wait, let's not curse. She probably has pictures, I think.
For which classroom, or not classroom, but what age group we should be doing it should be for the younger ones, because then they have like the solid foundation of what it is to have, I guess, morals, and to be and to be okay with being an individual.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Did he say how long this had to be, or was it just?
He didn't say. Whenever we're
Well,
discussing, I guess.
Okay.
any other thoughts?
No, I think that's pretty much it. So everything we just said right now, we put in that blog. Is that it?
The blog is more specific. Like, you got to use it in a lesson.